Last time we was here, we got more than 120 and we had to close the doors because of insurance purposes, but we won't have that problem tonight. I asked the headmaster, he's not coming in. Right, we've been running for just over a year, and as our constitution says, we've got to have an AGM, but we thought we would combine it with a update. They're trying to scare you now, trying to get more people. We've got 3 major projects about to hit our communities, and it really is in the plural. And the way I view it, it's a tsunami of disaster, and it's not out on the horizon, it's already over. And we have to do our best as a joint effort to try and get those stopped if we can, or at least amended. So, first of all, we'll go through some admin. Most important thing, hope we won't need it, is the fire alarm. If there is a bell, there's the fire doors there, or you can go out to the doors, but back there and follow the signs round to the right. Let's hope we don't need them. There are toilets out there should people need them. Excuse my back a moment. Leaflets. Last year, we're very happy to hear that the Freeham Manor, they actually put us in touch with their local printer, and we had some great pamphlets produced, which I'd ask you if you want to come and take them. We know there's an election coming up, put them in your windows, and when people, the councillors, prospective candidates see them, you know, and they knock on your door, ask them about these. There's also some car stickers. When I read the financial statement, you will see that we perhaps invested a little bit too much in all the posters. They didn't fly off the shelves, as the saying goes. If you want to help yourself to them, you can. Please do so, spread the message. We're all hoping that we'd see a great blitz of car stickers all across the communities, but that didn't quite come off. Anyway, the other useful piece of information, as I said, we've got 3 major projects coming up. The Basildon draft plan consultation, same for Brentwood, and the Lower Thames crossing. Quick show of hands, how many people have actually heard of the Lower Thames crossing? Okay, so that's good. We have tried to frighten people on our Facebook page, and it seems to be getting the message out. Personally, that one frightens me more than the Basildon plan and the Brentwood plan, if the wrong option is chosen. We have to pay for the hall tonight. If you want to make a small contribution, it's entirely up to you. I didn't bring the bucket as I normally do, but anyway, that is up to you. Bad place with the laptop, excuse my back. This isn't my laptop, so excuse me if I'm not positive for my...
You need to know which buttons to press.
Okay. Right. Okay. Bear with me a moment. Okay, then we'll briefly go through the last 12 months, how we started and where we've been and what we've achieved and so on. Try to run through those pretty quickly. Then I'm going to read out the financial statement from our treasurer, Zoe. She can't make it this evening, family commitment, but she's sent me the financial statement. I said last year when we started this proof-off, it's important that we do a report back to the membership, any money that we've had from you, any that was spent, because it is public money. And I will post the accounts on our Facebook page. Then I'm going to hand over to Philip Gibbs, my colleague, who's our press officer, and many other things, all the research that he does on behalf of the groups. And you'll see it's more than one group, it's quite a wide area that we're becoming involved with. I'll leave that to a bit later, but that's Phil. Come on, go away. Okay, just refresh people's memories. That's That's what the original battle was. 46,000 homes, gypsy sites on Dunstable Garden suburbs, which, if I could move this arrow, I'm not sure I can. Oh yeah. There's the, oh, excuse me, finger problems. This is not friendly, is it? Anyway. Right. Bear with me, I will get these smashed up. Which one are you going wrong, Phil? Right, very quickly on this one. The mauve line at the top is the A127. At the bottom of the green block, I won't try to play with the touchpad there because I'm going to do things wrong. That's the railway line. In the east it's West Main going up to the Ford Dunstan flyover, and the road to the right is the A128. So that's a large area, all destined to go under the bulldozer and covered in concrete. I got wind of this, because I'm nosy probably. I heard of the drop-in down at Westbourne Church, and I went there on the Friday afternoon, and two young ladies were there, one from Brentwood Council, one from Basildon. Thanks, Bill. And I left the meeting about 4 o'clock, went home to see my wife, and I said, I've just heard something that is really, really worrying. And I said, we've got to get this news out to the community, because the consultation was already running for 2 weeks. Saturday morning, I said, look, the best way we can communicate this. I don't know much about Facebook, and you've probably seen a lot of my kind of Facebook errors over the last year. But you've got lots of contacts on Facebook, and we started by going through my wife's Facebook page. That weekend, it just went meteoric, and we peaked at around about 1,650 members, and give or take, we've kept that fairly constant. Right. Am I hitting the right thing? Yep. So we started the Facebook group. One thing about the Facebook group, I have to say, by and large, everybody has been very respectful. I've been on some Facebook groups of pressure groups, and language hasn't been all that you wanted to see, but by and large, this has been a great group of people. We had some strange requests from friends to join us, and my wife is the admin. We get people from Belize and Central America. It's obviously scam merchants. They must somehow run down and see if there's a big number of people, and they try to get in there. You know, people try to sell Ray-Ban sunglasses and all the rest of it. So we don't have any advertising, no political bandstanding. We do have some of our local councillors here this evening. We always welcome their comments, but by and large, they've been pretty, pretty much in line. We had 4 public meetings. Very first one here, next one was across at the church, third one was at Freer Manor, and then the last one was down at James Hornsby. And they were all very well attended. We did have one criticism, and that was the feedback that we got from the ground was that there was a little bit too much political debate that went on. So you have to listen to what members tell us. But it's helpful. But as I said last year, all the promises before elections, and I've experienced this down the years, they do have a habit, I get quite poetical now, they do have a habit of disappearing like the winter snow in spring. The only thing that really matters is what they do, constructive. Yeah, we got support from all levels of politics, be it local councillors or prospective candidates, be it prospective members of parliament, and they come from all across all the parties, and pledged undying levels of support. Which, okay, fair enough. We'll have to try and hold them to that, won't we? I have to say, with regards to our local MP, Stephen Metcalfe, he was constructive. He did have convene a meeting at Basildon Council with the planners there. Philip went along, myself and Danny Lovey. Danny Lovey's an old campaigner against various things in this community. And also Mike Andrews of the Billericay Action Group. But Stephen had to admit at the end it's not really a parliamentary issue. Once the process has started, it's a council level issue. Because of the strength of the publicity that we were getting, we actually forced an extension to the consultation period. We made it quite well known and we were supported in this. They tried to sneak it under the radar, I believe. It was 2 weeks in before anyone got a sniff of this, so we did force an extension. And part of the making ourselves well known, we were invited into a wider action group called the South East Essex Action Group Alliance. I don't take credit for that long name, it's from the Billericay Action Group. And here is one of the things where we owe credit to Phil Gibbs again, and it was sterling work. I put a map up here. I think I'm going to put a map up here. Do you want to explain that map, Phil? You'll probably do it better than me.
Well, it's very simple, really. All these yellow areas are bits of the green belt which are threatened with development, not just in our local plan, because obviously we're here, but some areas up in Rochford, Castle Point, Thurrock and Brentwood, of course. And what we're just trying to illustrate here is just the extent of how much land is threatened here. So this is quite important. Obviously, we live near here. We're interested particularly in what's going on here. But all of this affects us because all the houses that are built on here will be putting new cars on these roads. They'll be using the hospital. They'll be creating pollution. They'll be doing everything that's against us as well. So we have to be aware of everything that's going on and not just our bit here.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks for that. As I say, we meet with the secret group, and because of the amount of research, etc., that Phil does, he actually voluntarily produced this, and all the pressure groups are kind of using that. It's quite horrific if you see. If we don't, we may win, we may not. We hope we will. We hope if we don't win, we can get it tailored down. If we don't, that is a massive amount of our countryside that is going to disappear under concrete. And you can't just roll over and not go down without a hard fight. I hope we win. It's certainly my intention to make it so. Okay, the consultation. You all did brilliantly. You really did. We got real motivation. People responded through emails and letters to council and on their web portal. Over 1,500 objections. I think it probably surprised them. And, unsurprisingly, and Philip and I think that figure of 84% were against it is a little bit low, but we won't challenge that. So, 84%. That is pretty convincing that the people don't want it. Yeah. A major percentage was from Langdon Hills, but not exclusively. It ranged all across the east, west, north and south. We made good contacts with the people, and got a gentleman here this evening from Herringate and Ingrave. Thanks for coming, Paul. Appreciate that. The one or two comments which they weren't justified, if you like. People said, "I don't want it." Well, yeah, okay, that's not here nor there. But anyway, and at the end there, Basildon Council, and we were saying this as a group, and other force groups were saying it. Brentwood hadn't provided sufficient evidence, and Basildon Council, Dr. Richard Moore, who's head of what's his position, Danny? Planning, thank you. He actually came out publicly in the newspaper. So, the divorce had already started way back in last summer. You would have thought that with that type of Objections raised, the strength of the objections, and 84% of them were against it. We'd have we would have won. Well, as I said, we won sort of, but the battle isn't over. So that's where we were, and I was chasing Basildon Council to provide us with, the consultation details, and it was delayed and delayed and delayed. And then I think just before Christmas or just after Christmas, we got the announcement and the results came out. I'll pause there for a moment. We will pick up on this. But that's really what we achieved. Just for those who are new here, just really to position what we've done this last year. There's a lot more going forward. As I said, it's a tsunami just already crashed over the horizon. Right. Financial statement from Zoe, our treasurer, who regrettably can't be here tonight for personal family reasons. Okay, she starts. In April 2015, current and deposit accounts were opened at NatWest Bank in the name of RAID. Account signatories are Philip Gibbs, Derek Fellows and Zoe Chambers. The account requires 2 signatories to operate and all funds are paid in. No petty cash fund is needed. The accounts for the first year of RAID, accounting period 1st of February 2014 to the 31st of January 2015, show very few entries. This is due to the nature of the campaign, which was initially based around the Dunton Garden suburb consultation concluded in March 2014. Income. All income received during the last year has been made from public donations. Public meetings at the start of 2015 provided £416 of the total £449 income, with donations from advertising car stickers, which cost us an awful lot of money, raising £33. Expenditure total £266. This was comprised of £66 venue costs and £200 advertising, brackets, mainly car stickers and posters. The group have no assets or liabilities, and the cash balance carried forward to the current accounting year was £183. Okay, so we've kept true to what we said last. Okay, right. Now we come to the election of officers, because the Constitution says after a year we have to. I would say that the current committee, we are more than happy to stand. We're taking the journey so far, we're more than happy to continue it. But if there's people who wish to stand in opposition, then we will put that to the vote. Okay, I was certainly. My name is Derek Fellows. I've lived in Langton Hills for 28 years. Been involved in various campaigns down the years. Because I was the person who put the news out last year for the Facebook page, and it suddenly went ballistic. And my colleague here, Phil, he said, we need a bit of organisation here. I'm proposing that, Derek, you started all this, you should be chairman. And of which various people jumped in and said, oh, I'll second that. And Phil did actually volunteer, bless him, to the press officer, which was seconded. And our treasurer, Zoe Chambers, she's a local person just lives down the road, has a family in the community. She's been a treasurer for other groups, I think some at the church.
Okay, I know Zoe, but there might be other people here.
Okay, good.
Not just for my benefit.
No. So, Zoe, we're all three prepared to continue this. Any more questions about us? No?
Can I propose you're re-elected en bloc?
I second that.
All right, thank you very much. It'd be our pleasure to do so. Deeply honoured and humbled. I would like to think that the membership believes that Phil, Zoe and myself have done a halfway decent job in the last year, rather than nobody else wants to take that mantle on. But anyway, Thank you very much. We will continue in the vein that we have done. We said that the group is a politically neutral group, whereas we welcome comment and advice. We maintain that stance of it is a politically neutral group. If we've strayed from that, it's up to, not that we have done in the past, but if we do, it's up to the membership to put us up on it. Right, so I think that's enough of me. I'm going to hand over to Philip. He's got some brilliant presentations. As I say, the amount of research this chap does, it's very commendable, and we owe a great deal to him. Right, Philip, I will let you drive this. I will go and relax.
I think we should clap.
Thank you, Linda. Much appreciated.
So I'm Philip Gibbs. I've lived here not quite as long as Derek, about 18 years, and I've been involved in this campaign obviously for a year now. So hopefully most of you have seen some of my postings on the Facebook group. So hopefully you know of me. So I'm going to carry on where Derek left off.
Oh, that's just a memory jogger to me to hand over to you, Phil.
There we go. So, Derek showed you a picture of what we had last year and how we'd managed to beat that and get rid of it. And so what we have this year, we have this, and you may notice it covers exactly the same area. The only difference is it's divided up. So Basildon and Brentwood have effectively said Dunton Garden suburb. That's pretty much finished now. It doesn't exist anymore. But instead, Brentwood have decided they're going to go on and do their bit anyway. They're calling it Dunton Hills Garden Village now, and they're bringing 2,500 homes on that. So that's in the Brentwood draft local plan at the moment, which they're consulting on. They've also told us now about what they're going to do about traveller sites, because we were told before there was going to be a traveller site, and their plan is to put 20 traveller pitches in that area. Now, a pitch is something which can hold 1 or 2 caravans, so it's an extended family. So that's quite a large site. In fact, the government guidelines for building traveller sites, there are such things, say that the maximum manageable size for a traveller site is 15 pitches. So they're starting with 20 here, so it's obviously quite big. Now, Brentwood's requirement for traveller sites over a 20-year period is 80 pitches, according to their planning officers. They're not saying anywhere else where they're putting them. This is the only bit. So this is effectively their first 5 years of requirements. In 5 years' time, they're going to say, oh, we need to put another 20 pitches somewhere. Where are we going to put them? Well, they might just put them here again. So, we don't really know where it's going to end. Basildon, they've got a much higher requirement for pitches because of Dale Farm. And there's lots of them they've put in. I haven't shown them here, but they did say they would put a traveller pitch in this area here as well. They're in their half. But they haven't said how many. So whether that's actually going to happen, I don't know.
Can I just be a bit thick for a second?
Sure.
Because it's been a long day. If Brentwood are proposing to build houses, can you just point out for us, just for the benefit of myself and perhaps other people, where's the Brentwood border?
The Brentwood border is this line up here.
And what are the other 2 grey lines?
This line along here is actually the border with Thurrock. So this is Thurrock down here, Brentwood here, and then Basildon over here. This line here is a division of this area. This is what's in the Basildon local plan. they've called it H10, it's policy H10, one of several policies for building that they've got in the plan. And they've divided it up because they're going to build on this bit straight away, or within the next, the beginning of the plan. This one, it's going to be much later. The reason it's much later is because people who live here aren't really willing to sell up their place. They want to stay. So they haven't really been able to get that bit. Maybe they never will. They can't really do compulsory purchase on these places because they need to do that these days. They need to show that it's in the public interest, the wider public interest to do it. It's not. You can do it for building a road because you can say, well, everybody needs the road, but for building new houses, it's very difficult to use a compulsory purchase. So if they stay put, then maybe that won't be built on.
Sorry, quick question for Derek. The purple line at the A127, is it?
Yeah, the purple line there is the A127.
And the line bounding the lower end of the Dunton Hills, the bottom line of the bounding side, that one there?
This line here?
Yeah.
That's the Thurrock border.
So where's Lower Dunton Road in that?
Lower Dunton Road.
Myself.
Lower Dunton Road is, that certainly says Lower Dunton Road there. It comes up here and it goes up that line and up to the top there. So it splits the Basildon bit into two bits.
The development's both sides of Lower Dunton.
Yeah, the bit at the top there is on the other side of Lower Dunton. Yeah.
So does the people with the £1,000, are they sold, do you know? Or
Yeah, this.
people live there?
I assume they have.
It's just one big farm, we've been trying to sell for years.
I assume they have. But yeah, most of this is farm, and then there's a bit at the top there, which is. Yeah. I think at the top here is where there's talk of having this a wood-burning generator facility or something. So I don't know whether that's going to happen.
Dunton Park. Where is Dunton Park in that?
Good question. This is actually Dunton Park here,
Right.
and this is now completely out of the plan.
Right.
Well, it wasn't clear when they were talking about Dunton Garden Suburb whether that was going to be built on there. So it's not in there. So we do have some contact with the people down there, and they've said they're very pleased to be out of the plan, that they're going to be able to carry on living there. On the other hand, they're not very pleased that they're going to be built all around, obviously. Especially made the point that they live in mobile homes. There's not very good sound insulation, so they're going to be affected by the sound. Okay, and this line here is one of the routes that the Thames Crossing is going to take. This is the route C4, it's called. I'm going to say more about the Thames Crossing later, but obviously if that happens, it could change plans here in various ways.
Phil, does the light blue signify anything? At the bottom?
I like that. Oh, this sort of cyan here. This is actually just marking the solar farm that's already been built there. This is just part of the large map, which there's lots of things marked.
Does Thurrock have any plans this area, this particular area, their side of the border?
Down the bottom. Yeah.
Not this
Not
close. Further down they do. You never know. Thurrock, they've got a plan that they adopted in 2011. So they should be okay, but actually they're now starting to look at doing a new plan. They're consulting on a completely new plan already. So it looks like they've decided they haven't really got enough houses in that plan, and they could do more, so anything could happen. Yeah.
Are they going to build a hospice and some houses further down south?
That's right. That's just when we come to the bigger map. You might see that, but that's just down there.
What is the last question? What Jonathan said.
The last question.
Somebody said something about hospital.
I think on the Malgrave site, isn't it?
Yeah, Malgrave Farm. It's just a bit. It's about there somewhere on this at, and that's going to be a hospice, and they're building a load of executive-style homes next to it to fund it.
Brown envelope.
So, yeah. Sorry?
Is it near the golf course? Was the question?
Oh, the golf course. It's. I think it's more or less opposite the golf course. Yeah, on the other side of the Dunton Road.
So naively, you've gone from, well, you've got 1,000 homes from where we were before, and it's now a sort of medium-sized plan compared to a massive plan, which instead of one council, two councils joining up to do it, two councils going against each other, doing exactly virtually the same thing.
Yeah. The numbers, it was
Some of that.
yeah, absolutely. So it was 4,000 to 6,000 homes in the total thing. If you added that up, that's what, 3,850. So,
Smoke and mirrors.
sorry, no,
4,000.
4,850. So it's more or less in the middle of the range they said. So it's the same thing.
The way I view it, Dunton Garden suburbs was the cake. The cake has now been split into two large portions.
What you had was two councils were going to work together, something on ish,
They said.
and now basically got two councils that are going to be doing,
Yeah.
going against each other.
Yeah. So, 3 consultations going on. There's the Brentwood one, the Basildon one. Anybody can, you don't have to be a Brentwood resident to submit to the Brentwood plan. You can make objections, and so obviously we should make objections to both of these plans in order to try and prevent again this thing happening. And
Excuse me, Bill.
yeah,
Pretty obvious by that people living in Brentwood don't give a monkeys.
yeah,
You know, to Brentwood people, it's of no concern, is it?
that's right.
It's across that little road,
Yeah,
and it's really over in Basildon.
yeah,
The
Now
state-
enough it's there, they don't know, but that's
that's the way it is.
that's the way it
The
is.
statement from, I think, the Shenfield Council last year when this all kicked off was, I can't remember it word perfect, but it went along the lines of, we're putting it over there because we want to maintain the leafy lanes of Shenfield. Well, bully for him, wouldn't we all like it? What he's doing in actual fact is just keeping his constituents happy, he's protecting his own, probably his own personal environment, and is also making sure he keeps his seat.
Yeah. And I'll come back to that. I've got a slide that will illustrate that later on. So, the Derek mentioned that the consultation, we got 1,500 responses to it, or comments. They should have come up with individual responses to each one of these comments. That's the way the consultation's meant to work. They didn't do that at all. They just gave a brief statement of consultation and then ditched it. So all those comments we put in, they haven't been answered at all. And they've only been taken into account in the sense that they've got rid of that and doing this instead. So the most important thing that we need to do is just copy any objections that went on there and put them in the new one. So if you made objections, do copy them, do put them in both the Brentwood and the Basildon at the very least. Obviously you can edit them, improve them, but at the very least we need to get those things in there. Then they will have to respond to them because they can't just throw away the local plan.
Can we access them still from the Basildon?
Yes, yes you can. And there's a sheet here that Derek has prepared where we've got these links, and also there's a link here to show where to get to those. And you can see not just your own ones, you can see all the comments, and you know there's far too many to go through, but just have a look at a selection of them. They were really well thought out comments, not just people saying, oh, I don't want to build on the green belt and this kind of thing. There were really quite extensive, reasoned objections to what was going on. So, yeah.
If they haven't followed the procedure in the first consultation, okay, how do we know that they're going to follow procedure in the second consultation? And how do we hold our council to account? Because the or something of a similar name, and there was comment that it hadn't been carried out. Surely, if a local council is truly accountable to its populace, to its population, then it has to follow a consultation procedure. And when a council fails to do that, who holds them to account apart from its population?
That's
Nobody, you say. Right. So why? So should we, as well as this, should we, as part of our being ignored, be going to the local government ombudsman and saying, actually, they've done this consultation once, they did it really badly, they didn't bother to respond to us because they didn't want results.
yeah. It's a good point. But let me.
I don't want to just.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, and I will be going through the procedures which are going to be followed from now on, because that is very important that we all understand that. The thing about the local ombudsman is you can make complaints, but it's you have to start by making a complaint to the council. You have to go through it in 3 stages. You have to escalate it 3 times, and then you can put it to the ombudsman. So it takes a long time, and they are and are all the way through it. It's quite difficult to go that route.
Can I just make a point? One of the parish councils here in England, and I went through all 3 stages on behalf of the parish council. On stage 2 and 3, I was informed by local planning officers that I could complain to the local government if I wasn't happy with the procedure. This I did. When I got to the final stage, I actually got in touch with the local government ombudsman. They said, we do not take complaints from public bodies. So despite what planning officers told them, so it has to come from individuals, it has to come from individuals.
There's so many catches in it.
Yes. I mean, it's all documented. I'd be more than happy to give you an ABC guide to this, but it has to be from individuals, and it has to personally affect you.
Paul, we might take you up on that offer.
No, seriously, I've got it all documented, so...
Exactly.
I mean, that people want to try that, they can, but because this is the local plan, there's a different set of procedures we can follow for this. And one thing they've done, though, the Dunton Garden Suburb consultation, I actually asked Richard Moore this at the council meeting, and he said, oh, but that's actually not part of the local plan, Dunton Garden Suburb, so, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to follow the same procedures.
But it was when they printed the leaflets.
Yeah, that's right. There was a dependency in the memorandum of understanding. Said the local plan depends on this consultation. So really, you can argue they're wrong, and the place to argue that would be when the local plans go to through to the planning inspector for examination, and I'll come on to that later. So we can complain it. That's probably better. Keith.
Could you help me? Because
Everyone against the London Garden Suburb. Everyone against that. That's not being done now. We've just shifted the border, have we?
Yeah, I mean, but
that is basically it. So
yeah.
the garden centre's not being...
Well, Basildon have said that if they would look at it again if Brentwood came up with more evidence. Danny.
Yeah, it's a very good question. The Americans got a good expression. It's called kicking the can further down the road. And the situation at the moment is that although Basildon Council effectively is now saying no to Dunton Garden Suburb, it is still in the local plan as an option.
All right.
Okay. Now, of course, my point that I'm making is that whether we actually get Dunton Garden Suburb as a planned development or not, we could well end up with a de facto situation of having Dunton Garden Suburb. Because if Basildon Council continues the idea of building west of the Lower Dunton Road up to the border with Brentwood, and Brentwood decides that they want to build up to the border with Basildon, or even only have a few 100-yard gap. You effectively have got a continuation of the urban sprawl along the A127 further westward. So you sort of getting a Dunton Garden suburb de facto in another way, simply because the urbanisation will be extended along the A127. The only way that can be stopped, in fact, the only thing that Basildon can do as a council is to protect its own green belt. My theme has been, and I was with the people in Dunton last week, to keep banging on about that under no circumstances must there be any building west of the lower Dunton Road. That has to be preserved as green belt, because that is the only way that Basildon can protect what is left of its eastern flank of green belt. Now, if Basildon decides it wants to build up to the border, and then Brentwood decides that they want to go ahead with the village and perhaps extend it into Basildon, we end up basically with a huge urban sprawl and mess. So
we could have 12,000 houses.
Well, the problem is that, I mean, Philip, I know, is going to come on and talk about the Lower Thames crossing in a minute, but, as far as it stands now without the Lower Thames crossing, you could end up with urban sprawl going along the A127 towards London by having Dunton being built up to the border with Brentwood, and then the other side, Brentwood building their own village, as they call it. So the only way we can stop that sprawl, as I say, is to say very, very firmly that there should be no development west of the lower Dunton Road at all. It should be preserved as green belt. That is the point that I'm making, and asking others very strongly to make that particular point.
Just to clarify what Danny was saying, thanks for that, Danny. That is the lower Dunton Road. So correct me if I know that I've understood you, Danny.
Yeah.
That's the lower Dunton Road.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying, Basildon, to protect its green belt, should not build east of there.
Exactly.
So that you're
West.
saying, sorry, west.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's because I'm looking upside down, Pete.
Yeah.
Right. So what you're saying then, excellent. That should remain as Greenbelt.
Yeah.
Because if Brentwood come up to its eastern border, we're still, as I said, the Dunton Garden suburbs cake has really just been cut in two. So we need that big green corridor.
Exactly.
As a minimum.
Exactly. Why are we only talking about west? Why are we not looking to protect east of the Lower Dunton Road as well?
The whole
Well,
thing.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean,
One is easier to defend than the other, but I mean, you still want to protect east of Lower Dunton Road as well. So it's 2 points. There's two arguments. The Dunton Village as a whole, yes, you can do things in Dunton Village, and people in Dunton don't mind things being done in Dunton Village, or Dunton Whalers, as they like to, but we're talking about infilling, that sort of thing. We're not so it remains more or less the same.
But from where we're living, the east of Lower Dunton Road is more relevant to us.
Yeah. Well, so whereabouts in East Dunton?
Well, here, this area. I'm not in Lower Dunton, but that is the east side of it is nearer here, and it is nearer the nature reserve.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I'm just making the point about the west side. If you build on the western side of the Lower Dunton Road, then you cannot protect your green belt.
Linda, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm your local councillor, Langdon Hills Borough Councillor. I just wanted to add, basically, to what's already been said. My viewpoint is that in the National Planning Policy Framework, which is the document within which the government makes sort of policies with regards to development, across the country, one of the aims of the Green Belt is basically to stop the urban sprawl. And so, we do have a green blanket in Basildon, but what we must protect at all costs is what I call the ring road of Greenbelt. The areas of Greenbelt that stops towns merging together. So this area here that we're talking about, if I'm correct, is about 400 metres of greenbelt that separates Basildon from Brentwood. And my view is, in the consultation, if you're going to be making representations, is that we must oppose the entire development, lock, stock and barrel, on the basis that it's not in line with government policy with regards to, you know, the whole purpose of Greenbelt is, as I said, to stop the urban sprawl. Once we're in bed with Brentwood, you can second guess what's coming next in the future. So if you are making representations to the consultation, which I would urge you all to do, as you did last time so very well, I do believe that should form one of your key objections. Okay, thank you.
Actually, no. If and when this will all be decided.
Yeah, we have got a timetable that Phil will be shown very shortly.
That's quite a long answer to that question.
What makes my biggest aspect of making my house think over it is that the sprawl from South End ends on the west side of Basildon, and London comes out to the east side of Havering, and this just fills in. So you've got South End built all the way up to London.
I mean, that was shown very clearly.
Will be the London Borough of Basildon. Seriously, if we don't fight it.
I actually coined that, Linda's just picked this one. I actually coined that phrase. Our last meeting last year, the fourth one, I pulled my own presentation because of the debate between various political parties was going on so well. But my presentation was called the London Borough of Basildon for that very reason.
And this is South End, just down here. This area is filling in with Castle Point, but I'll come back to Castle Point. This one here is particularly worrying. That's Basildon's sort of eastern extension of there, and that's really filling in quite a bit of greenbelt that was keeping us separate from Basildon and North Bentley, which is there's actually not really anything there's development here. This is essentially connected to this. So, and I'll come on to this bit. What's going on here? It's just as bad, if not worse.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
The plot of land next to East Basildon, do you know how many homes are proposed there?
That one there is
2000.
Yeah, 2000, isn't it? Yeah.
With
green
our side, the west side of London, we're looking at 2,350 homes, which is a smaller area than Brentwood's, and they've got a less capacity for homes. And west, so East Basildon, again, has got less capacity of homes.
That's right. And I'll come on to Brentwood in a minute. Let me get back to where I was. This is really just looking at the whole of Basildon, and you can see that we've got these areas all around Billericay, Wickford, around here, and travellers camps all over the place here. Some of these are extensions of places like Oak Lane, which is essentially the Dale Farm one, and Hoverfields. These are being extended in the local plan up to about, well over 50 pitches, some of them. So these are ridiculously big traveller sites, and it's not really good. And to be honest, it's not even good for the travellers to have that kind of thing going on.
That's a worry, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you market a place with 2,000 homes, you've got a traveller's site, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just remind us, Phil, what the national guidelines are for the manageable size of a traveller site.
It's 15, and the government changed the planning rules for traveller sites in October, and it was really too late for it to be taken into account in these local plans. Both Brentwood and Basildon are going to review their traveller needs. And in theory, they could get rid of everything because the idea of a traveller, the very definition has been changed to somebody with a nomadic lifestyle who doesn't stop permanently. So, in theory, they could get rid of all of them. But of course, I don't think we're going to be too optimistic about that happening. Unfortunately, we won't know.
How big Dow Farm is at the moment? We're talking about putting 20 on where they're building at the moment. Do you know how big Dow Farm is at the moment?
Well, the Oak Lane, which is kind of what they call the legal part of Dale Farm, is I think about 35 pitches or something, and they're extending it to up to I think about 50 or something. But when they did their travellers assessment, they looked at Dale Farm and said, "Oh, we have to allocate some. There's some need here for some more traveller sites." And Dale Farm had 49 pitches that were cleared, but they said, "Oh, but there were 83 families there, so really we need 83 pitches." And then they said, "Oh, but they're going to expand more, so we've got to add in another 50 pitches to that." So they ended up 136 pitch requirement for Dale Farm, which had 49 pitches cleared. So it's crazy.
That cost us all millions to actually clear all the battles, etc.
Yeah. All that policing and everything.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Okay, but we don't want to dwell too much on that. So the main problem here, I mean, if there's anything good about this, it's at least that they're reasonably well spread out. I know some people say, "Oh, Billericay's been there or Friday or something," but you know, if this is just showing the green belt, right? It doesn't show the Dry Street one down here, for example, because it's technically not green belt, although it was a very nice piece of green field, as I'm sure Danny will say. But I'm really stuck religiously just to green belt here.
Sorry, can I add to the traveller site on the consultation?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sorry, again, if you're responding to the consultation, in the National Planning Policy Framework, prior to the new guidance, basically the requirement was for a local authority to provide for the growing population of its existing traveller families within its borough. We always argued basically that Basildon already had its fair share of traveller sites within the Basildon borough, and that other authorities within Essex should look to increase their provision. So I do believe that guidance is changing, and as Phil said, you know, Basildon officers will be reviewing that. But in the consultation that's got out at the moment, if you are thinking of responding, then it may well be that you feel that Basildon already has an over-provision of traveller sites, and that perhaps other boroughs within the county should look to up their game.
Thank you.
I'm not trying to put words into your mouth.
No.
I'm just trying to give you some ideas of the sort of issues that you can raise in your response to the consultation.
So the amount of green belts being lost here is something like 1,000 acres. It's 7% of the green belt that's in the borough. The council prefer to say it's 5% of the total area of the borough. I think 7% of the green belt. And some people say to me 7% doesn't sound much. I think that's a huge amount. And a lot of the other districts have been worrying about giving away 0.5% or at most 1%.
Brentwood's 1%.
Yeah.
Nice surprise.
That's right. The only ones comparable in terms of percentages are some of the big towns up north, like Coventry, are giving away large fractions of their green belt. But as soon as you give away any fraction, as soon as you say, okay, we're allowed to take away this amount now, then when does it stop? You know, how far do you go on? Remember, we're talking about pearlescent. There's not very much distance here between Whitford and Basildon, and there's lots of houses in here. There's plot lands, there's traveller sites, and there's other sort of houses in there which are allowed to be there. But it's not really very far away from joining those areas up. And even here, with Billericay, it's a bit further away, but of course there's housing all the way along this road here as well. You've got Little Burstead and stuff, which is housing within the green belt that's been there for a long time. So there's a huge danger here of losing everything. So people have asked me about Brentwood, and this is what Brentwood are doing. This is a very beautiful plan.
It's all down there.
There's this huge area up the north of villages, Doddinghurst, Kelvingham, lovely area, absolutely lovely area, but they're not doing anything there. The only bits north of the A12 is some little bits around there. The biggest area is that one there, which is that's Officers Meadow near Shenfield. There's been a planning application on there for some time, so that's really already a goner, that one. So
the A127 M25, the yellows, that's all greenbelt.
This here, yeah.
Yeah, that's greenbelt as well. That's been put over to industrial.
That's right.
So
that's right. The story here is when they were widening the M25, they decided they needed a little area for storing materials and machinery and such like. So they got an agreement to have a quite sizable area here, which they would return to Greenbelt and Countryside when it was all finished. And of course, you guess what happened? They didn't turn it to Greenbelt at all. What they decided to do is this was an industrial area here. So they decided, oh, well, we'll move this industrial stuff here to here. A lot of the enterprises here didn't really want to because they were relying on the station, but never mind. Although the people of West London were actually okay with that turning from industrial area to housing because they preferred that. But now you see, we've got this big area. How did that happen? Well, there were a few other sort of bits of industrial stuff going on around here, places which have been used for all kinds of storage, probably half of it illegally, I think. Maybe some of it was allowed, but they said, oh, well, we might as well just draw a big thing around that and call that the Brentwood Enterprise Area. So that's what you've got there now. And as you can see, this is Upminster here, right? If you've got bringing in enterprises here, not too long before they decided to put a few houses nearer here as well. There's West London, there's Dunton Garden Suburb. Well, that's going to be joined up, and that could happen fairly quickly if we can't stop this. So that's basically all that stuff that was connecting up from Basildon to Southend is essentially joined up to London as well. And once that happens, it's quite a symbolic thing, but once it's done, then you've lost the individual nature of these towns, and you're just like London.
I just want to make the point that 6 months ago, Harrogate and Ingrave were earmarked to have massive development between Billericay and that parish. The reason I'm here is I'm against any building on any green belt. And if Harrogate and Ingrave survive this time round, I'm pretty certain in 15 years' time, when there's going to be another round of this, it's going to come our way. Personally, I think we should be fighting Greenbelt every inch. Do not give an inch away, because they will come back again. And this is just setting up a horrendous precedent for the future if we just let this go easily.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what's going to happen. If route option 3 happens, then it will rather dampen it, but it's there, because that's what happens. So you get transport streets.
We come on to that one in a minute.
Yeah, I'll come back to this.
That's route 4.
This one's route 4. But I'll come back to that. I've got some lovely maps and things to say about that.
What do we have next? The only general meeting, we've already had that.
Okay. Well, people are asking about what happens, and I think this is it's quite complicated. There's a lot to happen, but I'll try and go through it fairly quickly. Obviously, we've got the consultations going at the moment. We've got 3 consultations. They all end on the 24th of March, well, one of them on the 23rd. Now that's not a coincidence that they all end on the same date, because the next day is the beginning of it's exactly 6 weeks before the elections, the council elections, and as you probably know, there's lots of other elections going on that day. And in that period, there are different rules that apply. The council can't be doing things like running consultations, so there can't be an extension of any of these consultations. It's not legally possible. So as soon as they end, the election process begins, and we'll be electing in Basildon, a third of the councillors are up for election, and that includes Langdon Hills and Langdon Park. So probably everybody here is going to be voting. Paul will have something in Brentwood probably. And the reason that's important is because those councillors who are on the council after that election, they're going to be the ones who vote on the final plan, whether to go forward with it. So and that will happen, they're saying, at the end of the year in December. So that's the democratic part of the process, is us electing those councillors and then them voting. Right?
Is it a planning committee that agrees it, or full council that agrees it?
Full council.
It's full council, yeah. We're told for a local plan it has to be.
Someone who's not going to put their hand up.
So, so everybody on the council should be saying, having their say. It's worth saying for the consultation we're doing at the moment, you put in our things. There's two groups of people which we're really trying to communicate to. There's the planning officers, who are the kind of unelected officials who are just doing a job of the planning job in the council. Now they don't really care about how many people say something. They don't care how many objections there are. They just care about what you say, what points are being made. If 10 people say the same thing, that's just 1 point according to them. But also, the other group of people you're talking to are the councillors themselves, and they do care how many people say something. That's why we get this figure of 84% objected. So it does mean something. So on the one hand, it's about giving big, detailed, solid arguments, and on the other hand, if all people can do is say, oh, we object to building on Greenbelt, if lots of people do that, that still counts for something, because the councillors take note of it as well. Once that's done, it's scheduled for March 2017, by March 2017, so that means it will be ending by then. There's going to be another public consultation. But this one, although in some ways it looks similar, it's actually very different from the one we're going through now. Because, again, anybody can submit comments, but those comments don't go to the planning officers, and the councillors don't directly pay any attention to them. They then get bundled together with the local plan, unchanged from what it was at the vote, and those are given to the planning inspectorate. So it's the planning inspectorate, the central government planning inspectorate, who looks at those comments. You'd call them representations. Okay, so people were saying, how can we object? You know, what's the procedure? Well, this is where they're going to be held accountable, if anywhere, because you know, we know that the planning inspectors are on the side of the councils for building lots of homes, but this is the place where we can say something. But it's not a democratic process, right? The democratic part is over. It's a legal process, really. So you've got to make really solid legal points in your favour. So if you want to say, well, the Dunton Garden suburb consultation wasn't done properly, you can do that, but, you know, try and really find the arguments that say that was illegal according to some regulation somewhere in order to do it. If you're looking for, to quote the NPPF, you're looking to cite evidence, you're looking to also take their evidence and show that it's wrong, if you can. Those are the kind of things you're trying to do. And people who make representations, and I'm pretty sure that RAID as an organisation will make representations, and perhaps some of the other groups. Some of them, if they make substantial good points, could be called to answer questions at the public hearings in front of the inspector. So we might go up and he'll ask us questions, and then we've got to come up with answers on the spot. We don't get a chance to go back and look up the answers. So it's quite a difficult thing to do. And on the other side will be the developers, and they'll be represented by lawyers. And they know this stuff very well. It's their job. So it's not going to be an easy thing to fight them and make our case, but that's what we've got to do.
Naive question, are you also asking Basildon Hospital to chip in? Because obviously they're going to be, you've got 4,000, 5,000 homes, as you said right at the start, how they're going to cope with it at the moment. And then you've got Essex County Council, who probably can't get all the schools together.
Oh, can I come on that point?
Go for it.
I'm the county councillor now. I've seen the Basildon document about this fairy tale at a secondary school in the West. That is all it is, a fairy tale.
Yep.
You have more chance of maybe Mr. Slim by summertime than a secondary school in the West. Now, I've been to a briefing with two other county councillors of Basildon in the autumn of last year, and their view is crystal clear. They will create secondary school places in Billericay and Wickford as they feel that's where the natural demand is. And people, and the start of the Dunton Garden suburb debacle, if I can call it offensive, the county said, because I asked them the question, where will these children go for secondary school education if Dunton Garden suburb becomes a reality? Not a problem, Councillor Smith, the Basildon Academy. So I said, you're actually suggesting that the pupils go from one end of the borough right through to the other, you know, every morning and evenings? Yes, because the capacity is there. Now, even as a plan before it starts, with the greatest of respect to the Basildon Academy, and I can speak as a fighter, as my niece goes there, I mean, nephew, so I can speak as a fighter. They're not exactly happy about their school either, but they live local and they support their local secondary school. And who is going to buy a house in Dunton if that's the school the kids are going to be sent to? As you've put on your map, Phil, about the extra houses Brentwood's going to put in their corner of the borough, they're going to get first pickings to secondary school places in Brentwood and possibly Billericay if there's a shortage. Kids in Langdon Hills and London and possibly Dunton Garden suburb, whatever incarnation you wish to call it. What chance they got? So there will be no secondary school in the West. None. They'll only increase forms of entry in the secondary schools in Billericay and Wickford, and if you can't get in there, tough. You go to Basildon Academy. That's their plan. And whatever Basildon Council says, it's like me saying what the government will do. I'm irrelevant. County's in charge of the schools, and county will do whatever county wants. And can I just add in one thing, because I see there's a timetable there. You missed one out. The Police Crime Commissioner.
Oh, yeah.
Right. One of the candidates, no disrespect Danny, we would wear a blue rosette, is a county member for Shenfield Hutton and the deputy leader of Brentwood Borough Council.
Is that Roger Hurst?
Yep. So I know that his colleagues, Danny, will be putting out the literature.
Right.
So, you know, give him a tug. I mean, whatever happens with this Police Crime Commission, it's the whole of Essex voting, and he'll probably win it. He was up, the last Police Crime Commission was very strong independent, and the Conservatives weren't very big, so I envisaged the same thing again. So if Roger Hurst is elected as the Police Crime Commissioner, there will be a by-election in the Shenfield Hutton division, and that comes up to our borders. So this issue of Dunton is going to come up. So do the maths. Say 6 weeks from the 5th of May. We're talking around the 23rd of June. possible by-election day and schedule that. So this is another chance for us to throw, the spanner in and say, look, we're not happy with the deal. Brentwood's wrong. We've got our own houses possibly going in, hopefully not. And Brentwood want to do the same. So it's a chance for people to throw their iron on the fire and say, come on Brentwood, think again. Yeah. I'll let you carry on with it. Sorry, just 30 seconds.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you.
On the hospital issue, back in probably around about 2010, the chief exec was a guy called Ian Whittle. I was trying to think of his surname. Anyway, who subsequently left around about 2012. Alan Whittle, that's the guy's name. And he was asked whether Basildon Hospital needed any additional room for expansion. Now, bearing in mind that the Dry Street Fields adjoins Basildon Hospital, he was asked, and they had done research, and they said that there would no further room would be required on the Basildon campus. After he left, the new regime took over, and I asked a question at the public board meeting. I can't tell you what it was word for word, but the effect of it was, bearing in mind what the local plans are for not only the Basildon area, but other areas within South Essex, does Basildon Hospital maintain it still does not require any additional room for the campus of the hospital? And the answer came back in a very long-winded way, and I had to ask the chairman, was that a yes or was that a no? But the bottom line was, no, they would not need any more room for expansion of the hospital campus. They're taking it all into consideration, and if the push comes to the shove, then maybe they would farm out the laundry somewhere and use that. But no, they did not want any additional room. And that was the time when, in the new regime. I mean, the chairman has now left, but it is still essentially the same regime with the same chief executive. So, amazing, you might think, that answer. I was amazed, and I did make a point to the chairman at the time that I only hope that this is minuted. It was minuted, because in the future they may live to regret that statement.
Okay, so once that's all done, the plan is adopted. There is one last chance to object. That you can, for a period, raise a judicial review. But this is probably not a good idea. They tried this in Rochford. They thought they had a great case, but the judge said no, and they were just left with a £50,000 legal bill at the end of it. And since then, David Cameron has decided to double the public liability for judicial review. It's meant to be limited so that people can make these objections. He's doubled it, so if we object now, with a tiny chance of winning, it's going to cost us £100,000. I don't have £100,000 lying around. If somebody does, then please let us know. So really, it's these other stages. We've got this consultation, we've got the elections, and we've got the final examinations. Those are the things we have to use. That's our chance to change things and make something happen. Okay. What else we got? Okay, Eric Pickles. So he's here because before the election he was saying all this stuff about, oh, you don't have to build on Greenbelt, don't listen to your planners, your council planners. They're saying you have to build on Greenbelt, but you don't have to do this. So that's why a lot of us are saying let's try and stop any building on Greenbelt, despite the fact that the council keeps saying, oh, you have to because there's these targets that the government is setting. Well, he said, Brandon Lewis said the same thing.
Yeah, he did.
They didn't say so much after the elections, but okay, they did say it, and they quoted policies as well. So, and if you go into the examination against the inspection, say Eric Pickles said in the Telegraph that such and such, he's going to say no, just tell me what it says in the legal acts about this. So But it is all there. And that brings me to Castle Point. Some of you may have heard this. This is Castle Point now. This is Canby down here, which of course is considered an island, separated from this, which they call the mainland part of Castle Point. And they had all these bits of green belt in their local plan, which was causing a lot of joining up here. And their residents were very pushy about not building on this green belt. And in the end, a couple of weeks ago, the council had a vote, and they decided 6 votes to 25, I think 25 to 6, to take all these bits of green belt out of their local plan. So it went from that to this, which I think you agree is much nicer. It doesn't mean there's no building on here, that's just the green belt bits. There are some other bits of building around, and in fact there are a few little bits of green belt that have been already developed that they've decided to keep in. But essentially they've got rid of it. And they're going to go to the planning inspectorate and say, that's our local plan. The planning inspectorate is not going to be very happy about that. But Eric Pickles has said it's okay. So what's going to happen? This is obviously very important because it's going to set a precedent for us. They're going to be going into their final consultation within, I don't know, there's not a date for it, but very soon. And then hopefully they'll go into their examination while we're still thinking about ours. And we'll be able to get some idea of what the planning inspector is going to say to this. And he's obviously not going to say that's okay. He's going to try and make a case that they need to build. And then it depends on how pushy the Castle Point Council is to try and say, no, we want to keep to this. Or if they cave in straight away, then you know it's not much use to us. But if they press him and get him to try and say, what is the legal case that he's going to make that they have to build on these things after the government has said so strongly that they want to protect Greenbelt, then that will really tell us where we stand. So this is one ray of hope for where we're going. Because they've done this, we'd like to try and get Basildon Council to do that as well. I don't think there's much chance of getting Brentwood to do it.
Precisely at the same time that they voted against building their green belt, I was in the council chambers for Brentwood, and it was almost exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Something like 24 councillors voted to carry on with their local development plan, and I think there was like 6 abstentions.
Yeah. I think the thing about the Brentwood plan, the biggest hope there is that it's really a ridiculous plan. I mean, this idea, they're not building, if they've got need of houses, surely they're not down here next to Basildon, surely they're up in Brentwood. And we can say that. I mean, we can make representations to the Brentwood examination process as well as the Basildon one. So we can go in there, and I think there's much more hope. That's just one of lots of things that we can say are wrong with the plan and try and get it made unsound. So that's the biggest hope for that one. So that's the end of that. I want to say something about the Thames thing. I mean, we're getting on a bit in time, so I'll try and make this very quick. Probably, as you all know, there's the consultation, and there's these 3 routes. This is their map. There's Route 2, Route 3, Route 4. They all cross the Thames at the same place that they call Option C. There's another one, an Option A over here, which is the existing Dartford one. And the consultation, they said, oh, that's off the table. But then the Secretary of State recently said, no, it's still a possibility. So it's all very confusing. Of course, the people in Thurrock say they don't want any of this at all. They want to go back to further options over there from the past. I think I might have. That's further options. This is what it used to be back in 2009. They had option A, B, C, D1, D2, and even E over there. People in Thurrock want to go back to this one. And you can make a case for that one. Highways England, who are running the consultation, said, no, that's no use. You'd only get 3% of the traffic would go that way. But they've used old figures, so there are people making the case that really they should go back to this. Option B was thrown out after a consultation in 2013, which was a public consultation that most of us missed. The reason it was thrown out is because they wanted to build the Paramount theme park on there, and it was kind of cutting through the middle of it. So, not that they admitted that that was the reason, but that was clearly the reason that one disappeared. So I think what I would say, and what a lot of people are saying, is ignore them about this just route 2, 3 and 4. Have a look at all the options that have been on the table, and if you think one of those is the right option, then that's what you should say in the consultation. So I want to go quickly. There is one thing I wanted to say. This was a route that Kent County Council suggested off their own back in 2010. So it goes up here, goes through all the green belt in the middle of Thurrock, goes through all the green belt in the middle of Brentwood, and across all the green belt in Epping Forest, and it joins, that's the M11 up there. Now, if you didn't care about Greenbelt, you didn't care about the countryside, you didn't care about all the people whose houses are in the way and the pollution, and or about the fact that this would just mean that they would start developing houses all around here. If you didn't care about that, then you think, oh, that's a great route, because it bypasses the M25 for all the traffic coming up from Dover. But of course, I think we do care about those things. And Eric Pickles in particular cared because he lives just there. Right, where across the A12. So this option didn't last very long. It disappeared very quickly, and there's very little trace of it in the records.
Another highway.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, sir. Right, this issue came up at county, and Phil was kind enough to type up the transcript. We had our meeting early February, but before that meeting, the night after we had that terrible hold-up at the Dartford crossing because of weather, Councillor Bass, who's in charge of the policies of the Highways Department there, he's got an underling there dealing with all the potholes, wrote to 20 of us in his sort of, in his end of Essex, to tell us that option C, or option D, the other river crossing, was wonderful, we should all get behind it. So I emailed back and I went, it's stupid. I said, the cheapest option is what Ken Livingstone suggested when he was Mayor of London, a river crossing there, Beckton to Bexley. But unfortunately, he never had enough votes to get it through on the London Assembly. We tried several times. But that would take all the pressure off, because as you all know, any problems there because of the weather, it's not that far. And also, if you're coming this way, if you've got any problems, it's cheaper, it's logical, and it's more environmental. But they're adamant this comes up, this new river crossing. Now, I was at the first meeting over a year ago, and they wanted to go right round the back of the houses in Alsip Village, literally on people's back gardens. But the idea has been scotched, and now they want to come right round to get onto the 127. I can't see how the 127 can handle today's traffic, let alone the river crossing traffic. Now, what Phil's kind enough to transcribe, and then for Braintree, Councillor Walsh asked about the river crossing at Dartford, and Councillor Bass got up and he made his views crystal clear that if you're opposed to this new Thames River crossing here, you're a NIMBY, you've got to get behind it. Essex and Kent County Council, he said, have been pushing for this new river crossing. And this leads to the other point, and I think Councillor Bodge might wish to mention, is this issue of devolution. Have you heard about the Essex devolution?
No.
Right.
Explain.
A complete con. It's like the Eurovision Song Contest when it comes to representation. Each country gets one vote. So smaller authorities, like Malden, based on population, so Malden, Uttlesford and the like, get one representative. But bigger population authorities, like Basildon, like Chelsea, like Colchester, only get one representative. So at the moment, it's a talking shop But what they want to do is grow the Essex economy from 33 billion to 60 billion over a period of time. Hence, build, 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 build. One way of growing the economy.
And also a way for the local authority to make some money through the new homes bonus, because they're cutting our grant funding down significantly, like horrendously, but the carrot to the local authority is to build homes and then they get a bonus for it. So it is a growth agenda.
So this Essex devolution ties right into that. And what the government has told local authorities, you're going to have an elected mayor of Essex. And that will include the unitary authorities of Thurrock, which is independent of Essex, and the unitary authority of Southend. So if you're this new elected mayor of Essex, and I'm very sure he'll get his support from his colleagues at County Hill there in Chelmsford, will be based in the centre and the north of the county. Now, if he's going to have any problems like river crossing, housing travellers, no county councillors in Thurrock, none in Southend, elected mayor of Essex, where do you dump all your problems? So this is something I think borough members, I think I'm right in saying, are deeply concerned about this devolution. But I think if I've missed anything, you add to it.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Kerry, if that's all right. Can I?
Go ahead.
Yeah. A couple of points. Actually, I fully agree with Councillor Smith, in as much as I don't think we should be looking at a lower Thames crossing. The London Mayor, Boris Bojo, he might seem a bit of a donut, but actually he is currently looking at 3 London river crossings further up. We have got to be the only capital in the world that hasn't got sufficient ring roads going around our capital city. I don't know if any of you have been to Paris. You know, it's wonderful to get around. And the thing is, to be undertaking a consultation on a lower Thames crossing without the impact of the assessment of the proposals by the London Mayor for 3 crossings in London, and also the proposal, as I understand it, to take away the toll tunnels, which will make the traffic flow a lot more readily. I think the timing for this lower Thames crossing is ill-timed, basically, the consultation. That's just my view on, how the current government doesn't know how to run a barber shop. But on devolution, I do believe it's one of the scariest things that we've got in front of us. Basically, with Thurrock Council, they're a unitary authority. That means when when the residents phone up and they want a pothole fixed or a footpath cleared or, whatever it is, it's one point of contact. Same with Southend, that's a unitary. Within Essex, we've got this 2-tier system, and if I was to tell you the problems I've had trying to get some lights put up on a footbridge between Durham Road and the two wards and the Langdon Hills ward, because elderly people find it intimidating to walk across the footbridge over the railway line. Well, you want to slash your wrists at the end of it, because basically you can't get to the right person. All you want to do is ring up and get the job done, basically. And within this 2-tier system, it's mission impossible. But having said that, the proposal is for all the district councils to sign an arrangement with the government, together with Essex County Council, for basically a bit of an ask system. So the government will ask us to build, instead of say 16,000, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be 20,000, and in return we'll widen the A13 and the 127 and we'll give you the funding for it. It's literally because they want to speed up this growth agenda. My view, or our view, is that within Essex, that's bureaucracy. If you can't get your footbridge fixed now, when you've got the parish councils, the district councils, then Essex County Council, and now what? You've got another tier on top. It's bureaucracy gone mad.
But to be fair, I think it's definitely, points right, but it's definitely a north-south divide.
Yeah, and I was coming on to
Because
that.
we have, like, I'll give one very brief example, the local highways plan. It has £1 million budget each year, and he offers us Sir Humphrey Appleby out of Westminster. They will find any reason to stop a project. And we go, oh, you can't do it, policy, any excuse. The first year I was in on the county, the 13-14 year, they took 86% of that budget and it was used on improving the Army and Navy. And they're mugging all the local highways panel in South Essex to fund LED lighting in north of the county. So this is my fear of this devolution came up. Their allegiance will be to their colleagues in the centre of the north of the county, i.e. meaning shifting all their problems on us in the south.
And also the financial incentives, I see that as a huge risk because all of the development, let's face it, will be Thurrock, Basildon, Castle Point, Southend, absolutely down that corridor. With this funding arrangement, what we're going to have to share it with the leafy north of the county, where there's absolutely minimal development going on, you know, and hanging baskets and all kinds of stuff going on because they've got the cash and we haven't. So, yeah, need a little bit more information on it, but this isn't the meeting for it. So, but
I don't want any of this to be built. Hopefully there won't be too sort of thing. But if it is built, if that is the link, day 1 to 17M25, then this option, this 2010 option, is still on the table for the future.
That's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. Let me actually show you. This is, if I press this button, that's Route 4.
exactly.
Right? Back to that old route.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at this in isolation, it doesn't really make sense because the so-called preferred option 3, it goes through less green belt, it's less expensive, it's shorter, it's got everything in its favour apart from this one. So you say, what is the point of this one? And the only thing we can come up with is, if you look back at that old route, that's what they're thinking of. So after a certain amount of time, this is going to become a big bottleneck here, probably not very much time, and they're then going to say, oh, well, there's only one way to resolve this now, and that's to go up there. So,
Phil, can you bring up the map which shows the Dunton Whalers, the road going through there, please? We haven't actually addressed that. I'm just cognizant of the time.
Which one was that?
This much. Perhaps we didn't include it this time.
Maybe we haven't got it there. But maybe I can just finish, Derek,
Oh,
because
so
it's quite close to finishing this,
Okay,
this
sure,
now.
sure.
All I wanted to say on the end here was that in the consultation, if you write in the first paragraph, you might say, what's the point of a crossing? Well, it's to get rid of the congestion here, surely. But what they say is, yes, get rid of the congestion, and then to help the economy of the area, fair enough, and to help promote development of housing in the area. And that's what you've got to remember. That's what it's all about. So if you didn't want to develop housing, if you're just worried about the economy and the congestion, I mean, the Dartford crossing here is broken. There's problems with the wind crossing the bridge, closing the bridge. There's the traffic going north is stopped because of hazardous loads going through here. They have to keep closing. They've got traffic lights there, and they keep stopping the traffic to let hazardous loads go through the tunnels on their own because it's not safe for them otherwise. That needs to be fixed here. Even if they do this, they're going to have to come back and fix that.
You know why they don't keep stopping the traffic for this hazardous loads? I know someone's a crane driver, and his firm has to pay £45 to be convoyed through. So if they hold enough vehicles together, easy £200-300 they can earn, isn't it?
Yeah, and as Kay was saying, bridges here, well, they are talking about a number of bridges here. I think the most easterly one is kind of to Raynham to somewhere here, I forget what that place is called, and there's another one over here somewhere. So that's being run by the London Borough, of course, and completely separately. But once those are there, that will take a lot of pressure off you, because then that's no longer quite the same pinch point. So the sensible thing to do is to sort that out first, and then worry about, do we need more crossings over here. But the reason they want to do this now, there's only one explanation. They want to use this, as Danny was saying, it's a Trojan horse to get housing built around here. And if they can extend it up there later on and have even housing going way out there, the more happy they are. So that's what you've got to remember about what's going on here. And I think that is...
I understand that houses in Thurrock, in certain ones in Dorset and Chadwell, that will be in line for option 3, have already received their letters warning them that they may be...
that's right. But it's not...
Disgusting.
They don't know for sure. I mean, it might even be better if they knew for sure, but some of them are on one route and not the others, so they've got to wait and find out. And others will be they won't be knocked down, they'll just have motorway straight next to them. So it's pretty horrible from that point of view as well. I think that's...
I just think it just shows how determined they are that there'll be an option C.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. Maybe you want to...
Yeah, there is one thing that came up in our Facebook group the other day. It's not directly to do with development, but it's something that might be of significance in our community, and that's the quality of the water. And if I can find the relevant notes from... No, it's over here. A lady called Sally, who she sent me an apology on Facebook this afternoon. She couldn't actually make it. She wanted to, but she asked me if I could read out her statement. Basically, when I'm searching for it, what Sally said was that she became aware that she was getting, after showering, itchy skin. And other people chipped in, oh, I've noticed that. Generally about the last 6 months. I must admit, I do suffer from dry skin, so I wasn't really that concerned. But when a group of people start saying, and me, anyway, this is what Sally said. Hi, I just wanted to send my apologies for this evening. I'm not able to make it. If you can just mention the water, that would be good. I have testing being done tomorrow. I'm not sure what testing, but we'll let you know the outcome. We have been using bottled water to wash hands and rinse after showering. Must be using gallons. It's pretty desperate if you get to those, and have seen an improvement. But it's not a long-term answer. People can contact me through DGS, through private messenger, through, or on a Facebook page, if they have anything to add. Hope it goes well, and sorry it can't be a Sally. So that's Sally Warburn, W-A-L-B-U-R-N. Just a quick show of hands. I mean, I'll put my hand up. People, are they noticing that their skin is dry or itchy, or... Yeah, let's see, that is, okay, it's not scientific, but that is of concern. So I guess we need to know from the water company, what have they been doing with our water supply? Have they been adding anything in it? We know that probably all water companies now put in fluoride for the teeth. But, what else might be going wrong? But anyway, watch your Facebook group. Sally's having her water tested tomorrow. I guess she means for tap water. But you never know. And watch this space. One thing that we didn't bring out tonight was that with the Lower Thames crossing, I mean, people I feel sorry for is the people in Dunton Waylet, because I've had a feeling for a long time with the port at Tilbury going in and the Paramount Studios. There's going to be tens of thousands of HGV vehicle movements. And when I was at this meeting at Dorset Hall about 3 weeks ago, and they gave these big statistics of heavy goods vehicle. And they're going to have an amendment road, an additional road coming off the Dorset Cock, going straight up between Horndon on the Hill and West Horndon. Straight through Greenbelt land, it will be at least 2 carriageways, two lanes in either direction, so a 4-lane highway, with a possible, they did kind of mention, might be 3 lanes in either direction, just to get the traffic. So I always thought it might be making a dual carriageway up the A128. But going to the various maps and various routes of Philpott, I always thought if it was the A128 going to be made into a dual carriageway, why are they going to stop at the A127? There's particular interest to Paul and the Ingrate people. And I could see if it was going to be the A128, but it's going to be a road parallel to that, not that far from it. Why wouldn't they go over the A127 and go further north and up through, it's, but then feels, I'll tell you one thing that I will just stop, the thing that really amazed me, the amount of information this guy, detailed information that this guy carries in his head. All right, it goes without saying that anyone that can get a PhD from Cambridge University, it's given us read that it's a pretty, damn smart guy. But one thing I've learned working alongside Phil this last year, I know how much time I've invested in, keeping people up to date and the rest of it, but the amount of hours that Phil invests on behalf of our communities, and it is communities, is just blows my effort out of the water. So, great working with you, Phil. Thank you very much. Anyway, we now move on to any other business. Is there any? Yes, Gary.
Bit of positive, because it was all, you walk away from it and you think, it's all going to be over and done with. There is one other consultation that should be happening, and it's when grab us politicians, not me or Linda directly, our members of Parliament. The Electoral Commission is going to start work and change all the parliamentary boundaries to get rid of 50 MPs. Now, what they announced about 3 years ago, that the Liberals welched on, so it never happened, was to reincarnate Angela Smith's old seat, which would make it super duper marginal. But the only difference is it would lose Allsit, Horndon and Bolton to Eric Pickles and still keep on to East Tilbury, which Angela Smith never had when she was the Labour MP for our area. Take away Pixie and Vange and put in the town centre of Basildon, Lee Chapel North and Langdon Park, which of course has got Dunton. Now I think if we've got a boundary like that, it would really keep whoever wants to be the MP on their toes. Have you got that sort of map up, Derek?
I don't know which one we're referring to actually, Kerry.
Yeah, but what they did propose for the other side of the 127 was a really safe seat. It was going to go from the 127, taking Billericay, West Chelmsford, the nice parts like Whittle and all those villages, and right up to the edge of Stansted car park, airport car park. So some of us joked Dale Farm and Stansted Airport car park constituency. But when that constituency starts, it's worth getting involved, because I don't think there should be any safe seats. I think everyone should be kept on their toes. Because Stephen, to be fair, Dan, he's been good with us on this issue, and he has stood by on option 7. So I think if we can keep people on their toes, it's a good thing. Because, I mean, look at Mr Pickles. You can't have one, can he? Gets in year after year, so just thought I'd add that, because one people walk away that will feel doom and gloom.
Thank you. Your contribution's always welcome, Kerry.
I think it's worth on the comment report about the possibility of Brentwood being involved. And the other chap here from Premier Day, I think that possibly people in that area of Brentwood could be sleepwalking, sitting back thinking, oh, it's not going to affect us. And they actually could find themselves in a worse position than anybody around here. And I think whilst we can make sort of possibly sneering comments about Brentwood Council, because the councillors look after their own, I think very much a matter that we possibly should be sort of holding a hand out to the people possibly affected in the areas, and maybe, suggest having a meeting out of our group in conjunction with Herringham and Brentwood, and just to actually make them aware that, the possibilities that what could happen without them reading it.
We've got a much smaller Facebook group, so Herringham and Brentwood, same about villages. That was created as a result of the vast proposals to build and sway the land, like I said earlier on, between Billericay and Herringham. I've learned a lot tonight, and that will be going straight on that Facebook group. And yeah, the Thames crossing is a real worrying for me in the medium to long term. You know, like I said, it looks like the parish has got away with it in the local development plan now. But it's just setting a precedent, as I said earlier on. In Basildon and Greenbelt, if you do it this time, you can do it next time, and every 15 years, you know, 60, 75 years' time, there'll be none left. There'll just be one massive concrete from here to Ipswich.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right.
I've already said that, yeah.
Right, just while we have a few minutes. Yes, sorry, sir.
Can the government still force this through no matter where we go with this? If we're able to turn it, can the government still carry this?
Well, it has to go through the planning inspectorate, through the various steps that Bill identified earlier on this evening. So it's not so much the government as an MP, but the inspectorate. You know, let's hope it's neutral. But
have we got any positive ideas to put to them that we could suggest and make these look so clever?
well, just suggest that they are not abiding by the National Planning Policy Framework. If you'd like to read them. Yeah, if you'd like to read all 89 pages of the NPPF, you get some good information out there.
One comment with regards to the information for the Thames crossing. I've looked on the website for that, and the map doesn't show the Dunton turning on the 127. It's a very confusing map. I don't know if you've got better maps available. If you have, you can post them, that'd be great. But for anyone looking at that map, it's very easy to not be able to identify where that route is coming down.
We will try and get something with more clarity on the Facebook page, but I've actually gone to Highways England under Freedom of Information if they can provide me, and they say it's all on our web.
Yeah, clearly those maps are inadequate.
Yeah.
I say one of the problems is that, of course, you know, the detail just isn't there. But I mean, I went down the town centre again today because the presentation was being done again in Towngate. And it wasn't like the scrum it was, fortunately, at Allset Hall. You could actually talk, and I had a long conversation with an engineer who was involved in it all. And I was talking to him about all the reasons why Route 4 was a bad idea. And he said, I'm really glad I've seen you this morning. He says, because I've never heard any of these things that you told me. The ramifications of it all. I said, well, if you can understand, you've been really down in Thurrock, you're going to hear the Thurrock argument. So I talked to him, about, what that route would do, and about the infill, the green belt, the building, and everything else. And he said, please put all that down on paper for us. He said, because you've told me things I didn't know today. So that was a positive, and the guy did seem genuine. I also actually brought the scheme up about, was it really just a plan for, to continue further northwards? And he said, no, he says that's certainly not something that's on the agenda. Now, some would say, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? But
I mean, who put that route in there? That's
well, I don't know, but certainly the guy was one of the engineers that had been working on it, and it certainly wasn't in his plans because he thought it was going to be too difficult.
I think even if it's not the intention, the fact is you're going to get that bottleneck there, and then they're going to say, how do we solve this?
Well, I was talking to him about these bottlenecks and all the rest of it, and the A20, the junction 29, all the rest of it. But actually, I had something like about 15, 20 minutes conversation with him because he had time, so.
Okay, last thing to raise this evening. Just remind you, if you want to come and take any of these leaflets or the car stickers or these where you can raise your protest in Basildon Plan, Brentwood Plan or Lower Thames Crossing, please make use of them. Okay, just to bring the meeting to a close tonight, thank you everyone for attending. It's a shame it wasn't all people, but oh well. We are holding another meeting on the 16th of March at Freeham Manor Hall.